Good morning. My name is Chuck Bauer, and I'm a member of the Board of Trustees of this congregation. Welcome to you all. The Unitarian Universalist Fellowship of Elkhart is a welcoming community, encouraging religious freedom, nurturing individual spiritual and ethical growth, celebrating diversity, and promoting a just and sustainable world. If you would like to learn more about this fellowship, please look at our website at uufe.org and join us after the service for our coffee hour in the gathering place at the far end of the building. For the listening enjoyment of all, we ask you at this time to please turn off all cell phones. Also, if you require hearing support, please ask for help back here at the sound desk in this corner. Thank you.
Good morning. So good to be back with you all. Well, here we are at the cusp of a new year. A year pregnant with possibility, yet plagued with anxiety about what the future holds for us. These past few years have been rough for many of you. COVID has changed us, both as individuals and as a congregation. And with the event of Reverend Amy leaving, people have had to wear many different hats as they've stepped up into church leadership to keep this place afloat without a minister. And many of you have had to learn new computer skills and to adjust to new ways of doing things. I think we can all agree that there is no longer a normal here. We can never go back to the way things were, but we're not yet settled in a new normal. We don't fully understand who we are as a congregation in this new reality, and we don't have a clear idea of who we want to be in the future. In other words, we are betwixt and between. We're on the threshold of something new. We're in what's called a liminal space of the almost and not yet. We don't know what's next for us. We don't know what the future holds. So today I want to create a space and time for us to honor this liminality, this threshold, to name it, accept it, and to sit with the possibilities of being in between. And I'd like to start off with a poem by Arlen Goff called Thresholds. Thresholds. We cross them every day, from room to room, outside to inside and back again, from here to there, from anywhere to everywhere, from age to age. Each threshold offers an opportunity for change, for renewal, for transformation, from what we were and what we are to what we can be. In this hour and in this place, we cross a threshold from our day-to-day everydayness into space and time attuned to the other, to the sacred, to the holy, into an awareness of new life pregnant with possibilities. Now let us enter into worship together.
Hear these words by Eric Walker Wilkstrom for our chalice lighting this morning. We light this chalice for all who are here and for all who are not, for all who have ever walked through our doors, for those who may not yet find this spiritual home, and for those who can't even yet imagine. For each of us and for all of us, may this flame burn warm and bright. Would you recite with me now the words of our covenant as printed in the order of service? Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its law. To dwell together in peace, to seek the truth and to love, and to help one another. This is our covenant. For our first hymn this morning, I invite you to stand and sing as you are able. Number 298, we're going to do verses 1, 2, and 5. So stand if you're willing and able. Wake now, my senses, and hear the earth call. Feel the deep power of being in all. Keep with the web of creation your vow. Giving, receiving, as love shows us how. Wake now, my reason, reach out to the root. Join with each other in the quest for the truth. Honor the beauty and wisdom of time. Suffer thy limit and praise the sublime. Wake now, my vision of ministry clear. Brightness, my pathway, rich radiance here. Mingle my calling with all who will share. Work toward a planet transformed by our care. Thank you.
So this morning I have something I don't do too often is have a video story for the kids and everyone. It's called After the Fall, How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again by Dan Santat. And then after the story, I'll say a few words.
After the fall. How Humpty Dumpty Got Back Up Again. A story by Dan Santat. My name is Humpty Dumpty. This was my favorite spot, high up on the wall. I know, it's an odd place for an egg to be, but I loved being close to the birds. And then one day, I fell. I'm sort of famous for that part. Folks called it the Great Fall, which sounds a little grand. It was just an accident, but it changed my life. Fortunately, all the king's men managed to put me back together. Well, most of me. There were some parts that couldn't be healed with bandages and glue. After that day, I became afraid of heights. I was so scared that it kept me from enjoying some of my favorite things. I walked past the wall every day, and I would think about climbing that ladder again. I really missed the birds and being high above the city, but I could never do it because I knew that accidents can happen. I eventually settled for watching the birds from the ground. It wasn't the same, but it was better than nothing. And then one day, an idea flew by. Making planes was harder than I thought. It was easy to get cuts and scratches. But day after day, I kept trying and trying until I got it just right. My plane was perfect, and it flew like nothing could stop it. I hadn't felt that happy in a long time. It wasn't the same as being up in the sky with the birds, but it was close enough. Unfortunately, accidents happen. They always do. I almost walked away again. But then I thought about all the time I'd spent working on my plane and all the other things I'd missed. I decided I was going to climb that wall. But the higher I got, the more nervous I felt. I didn't want to admit it. I was terrified. I didn't look up. I didn't look down. I just kept climbing, one step at a time, until I was no longer afraid. Maybe now you won't think of me as that egg who was famous for falling. Crack, crack. Hopefully you'll remember me as the egg who got back up. Whee! and learned how to fly. Life begins when you get back up.
Thought that was a cute story. So Humpty Dumpty experienced an event that changed his world. Nothing was the same after the Great Fall. He missed how things were, being up high with the birds, but he just couldn't go back to the way things were before. I think that's where we're at now, too. Some things may be familiar, like the paper airplane birds, but they're not the same. And it's okay to be sad about that. But we can also be excited about what we might be able to do if we're brave and learn to fly. And with that, I will send the kids to their classroom. I'd like to share a bit of a meditation with y'all by Kate Walker. It's called In Between. Two trapeze artists mid-swing for the catch. In between, liminal, that space where we wait. Between moments, events, results, action, no action. To stand on the threshold waiting for something to end and something new to arrive. A pause in the rumble of time. Awareness claims us, alert. A shadow of something different in between invitation and acceptance, in between symptom and diagnosis, in between send and receipt of inquiry and question, in between love given and love received. Liminality, a letting go, entering into confusion and ambiguity and disorientation. A ritual begun, pause. Look back at once was, look forward into what becomes. Identity sheds a layer, reaches into something uncomfortable to wear. In between lighting of the match and kindling of oil. In between choosing of text and reading words. In between voices and notes carried through the air into ears to hear. In between creation thrusts ever forward. Social hierarchies may disassemble and structures may fall. Communities may revolt or tempt trust. Tradition may falter or creativity crashes forward. Leaders may step down or take charge. The people may choose or refuse. In between, storm predicted, the horizon beacons. In between, theology of process reminds us to step back. In between, where minutiae and galaxies intermingle with microbes and mysteries. In between, liminal, that space where we wait, look, listen, feel, breathe.
Last week's offering and this week's offering will be shared with Habitat for Humanity, so please give as you're willing and able. Thank you.
Last night I heard a wood thrush calling in the evening like they sing. I saw you standing by the water, out on the brink of everything, on the brink of everything. Yeah, all the things that used to matter, no, they don't mean so much today. Toss the seeds and let them scatter. The birds and wind take them away, till there is nothing in my way. This has been too much and little, the ache of it bewildering. But for now we'll stand together, here on the brink of everything, here on the brink of everything. I can't see past this horizon, no, I can't see what's waiting there. I never sang 'cause I knew something, I sang because it was a prayer, the finest one that I could bear. This has been too much and little, the ache of it bewildering. But for now we'll stand together, here on the brink of everything, here on the brink of everything. This body has been many things. It's been rain and snow and earth and dust. I've worked and worried, searched and hurried, but now it's just forgiveness. Now it's all forgiveness. I'll walk with you as far as I can, and all we love is all we'll take. I'll send a postcard when I get there, just to say I got there safe, just to say I got there safe. And I won't need no choir of angels, just that old song you used to sing. But for now we'll stand and wonder, here on the brink of everything, here on the brink of everything.
I would like to share this reading called The Parable of the Trapeze, turning the fear of transformation into the transformation of fear. by Denan Perry. Sometimes I feel that my life is a series of trapeze swings. I'm either hanging on to a trapeze bar swinging along, or for a few moments in my life, I'm hurtling across space in between trapeze bars. Most of the time, I spend my life hanging on for dear life to my trapeze bar of the moment. It carries me along to a certain steady rate of swing, and I have the feeling that I'm in control of my life. I know most of the right questions and even some of the answers. But every once in a while, as I'm merrily, or not so merrily, swinging along, I look out ahead of me into the distance, and what do I see? I see another trapeze bar swinging toward me. It's empty, and I know in that place in me that knows that this new trapeze bar has my name on it. It is my next step, my growth, my aliveness coming to get me. In my heart of hearts, I know that. For me to grow, I must release my grip on the present, well-known bar and move to the new one. Each time it happens to me, I pray, that I won't have to let go of my old bar completely before I grab the new one. But in my knowing place, I know that I must totally release my grasp on my old bar, and for the moment in time, I must hurtle across space before I can grab onto the new bar. Each time I am filled with terror. It doesn't matter that in all my life, previous hurdles across the void of unknowing, I have always made it. I am each time afraid that I will miss, that I will be crushed on unseen rocks in the bottomless chasm between bars. I do it anyway. Perhaps this is the essence of what the mystics call the faith experience. No guarantees, no net, no insurance policy, but you do it anyway because somehow to keep hanging on to that old bar is no longer on the list of alternatives. So for an eternity that can last a microsecond or 1,000 lifetimes, I soar across the dark void of the past is gone, the future is now not yet here. It's called transition. I have come to believe that this transition is the only place that real change occurs. I mean real change, not the pseudo change that only lasts until the next time my old buttons get pushed. I have noticed that in our culture, this transition zone is looked upon as a know-nothing, a no thing, a no place between places. Sure, the old trapeze bar was real, and that new one coming towards me, I hope that's real too. But the void in between, it's just a scary, confusing, disorienting nowhere that must be gotten through as fast and as unconsciously as possible. No, what a wasted opportunity that would be. I have sneaking suspicion that transition zone is the only real thing, and the bars are illusions we dream up to avoid the void where the real change, the real growth occurs for us. Whether or not my hunch is true, it remains that the transition zones in our lives are incredibly rich places. They should be honored, even savored. Yes, with all the pain and the fear and feelings of being out of control that can, but not necessarily, accompany transitions, they are still the most alive, most growth-filled, passionate, expansive moments in our lives. We cannot discover new oceans unless we have the courage to lose sight of the shore. So, transformation of fear may have nothing to do with the making fear go away, but rather with giving ourselves permission to hang out in the transition between trapezes. Transforming our need to grab that new bar, any bar, is allowing ourselves to dwell in the only place where change really happens. It can be terrifying. It can also be enlightening. In the true sense of the word, hurtling through the void, we just may learn how to fly. Now we have a good opportunity. Dan and I are going to help you through this, but I want to share a little preliminary here. According to the UUA song information page, this hymn, number 1020, which we'll sing next, Wo Ya Ya, was written by Ghanaian drummer Saul Amarifio. Woyaya is the title of the song of a 1971 album by Osibisa, a musical group of Ghanaian and Caribbean musicians. It was frequently heard in work camps throughout Central West Africa in the 70s and 80s. The arrangement in Singing the Journey comes from the version by Yasser Barnwell of Sweet Honey in the Rock. Woyaya, like many other African scat syllables, can have many meanings. According to the song's composer, it means we are going. Carl was really cool in finding this video that's very helpful for us. You're going to need your music for the tune, but the words will be on the screen. But it's exactly as it's written. Be very simple once you get the feel of it. And we'll just get into it, and stand if you're willing and able, and let's sing Oh Yeah Yeah.
One
Yeah,
quick
go
word
ahead.
here. It might be helpful for you to think of it. This is a feeling of 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. But if you feel more of a 1, 1, 1, that'll help you keep right on the beat. So it's we are going. Heaven knows where we are going. Okay?
Okay? Okay, stand please. It's some repeats in there, just follow the music and you'll be right along. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know it, and we will get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah, oh yeah yeah. We are going, heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will. And we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there, but we know we will. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh Okay, thank you.
All right.
That went good.
Yeah. Make singers out of you yet. You want a door you can be on both sides of at once. You want to be on both sides of here and there, now and then, together in what we call the life we could wish back, the old life, the before. But any open space may be a threshold, an arch of entering and leaving, crossing a field, wading through nothing but timothy grass. Imagine yourself passing from and into, passing through doorway after doorway after doorway. This word's by Maggie Smith. And I believe we are at a threshold. Like the space between the trapeze bars where we are neither here nor there. We are betwixt and between. The almost, but not yet, on the brink of everything, according to Carrie. In a very real way, even though I was not with you pre-COVID, we know we can never go back to the way things were then, and wondering about what could be next. It seems kind of surreal to be here in this kind of amorphous place and time when we crave the familiar, the comforting, the normal, and at the same time understand that things are different now. Some of us might be feeling a little bit disoriented, anxious. Some might be feeling grief for what was. And this disorientation, this anxiety, this grief is real and deserves to be acknowledged. But on the other hand, we also find ourselves in this new reality and the exciting possibilities it may bring us. We're asking ourselves, what does the future hold for us as a congregation? And it's a valid question and one worth looking at. Clearly, we can never truly know what the future will hold. But right now, I think it feels like we're living with a profound sense of unknowing, and we have no playbook to guide us. As Maggie Smith wrote, you want a door you can be on both sides of at once. But at this point, we don't even know what kind of door it is. This door, our future, is not yet clear to us as a congregation. Is it wood or is it metal? Does it have a lever or a knob? Is it a sliding door or a French door? Or maybe even a country half door? Maybe it's even deadbolted and chained. Or it could be just a flimsy screen door. We don't know, but we need to. Whatever our door, whatever our future turns out to be, we want to be able to stay at the threshold and see with clarity what awaits us on the other side before we step through. We want to know what will happen to us if and when we cross that threshold. We want to know, we know that stepping into the unknown is scary and exhausting. Being on the threshold is exhausting. Many of us are finding that even mundane tasks are requiring more and more energy from us. I've seen a sharp uptick in both congregations with anxiety stretching across the board. We're weary in ways we've never experienced. And as we try to keep moving forward, we wonder where we will find the energy and the strength to do so. And yet, despite the weariness, there is another truth. We are simultaneously in this liminal space. That space between the trapeze bars where all things are still possible. We yearn for a future we cannot clearly see, but we hesitate to leave the old, the comfortable, and the familiar behind. Father Richard Rohr, a Franciscan friar and popular writer on spirituality, once said, "Liminal space is an inner state and sometimes an outer situation where we can begin to think and act in new ways. It's where we are betwixt and between, having left one room or stage of life, but not yet entered into the next. We usually enter liminal space when our former way of being is challenged or changed. Perhaps when we lose a job or a loved one during illness, at the birth of the child, or a major relocation. It is a graced time, but often does not feel graced in any way. And such space we are not certain we're not in control. And Robert Fulghum describes liminality as meeting the center of a doorway. Liminality describes the transitional phase of personal change, when one is neither in an old stage of being nor a new, and not quite always aware of the implication of the event. All stages of life, says Fulghum, include liminality. Indeed, when have you experienced liminality in your life? When have you been in that space between the trapeze bars? I've experienced many liminal times in my life, but perhaps the most profound instance was the period of time I decided I want to enter seminary and the time I actually did. At that time, I had undergone a lot of upheaval in my life. I lost both of my brothers in quick succession. My first marriage failed, and my world had been just turned upside down. I was in this horrible limbo, caught in a stasis between living in grief and being healed. I was in this state of being almost and not yet. And though I thought what I wanted the most was to go to seminary, I was afraid. I didn't know how I could afford it. I didn't want to let go of my secure job that I had. I didn't know if I had what it took to be a minister. Yeah, I felt I was being called, but I wasn't ready to answer that call. I wasn't ready to let go of my trapeze bar and reach for the next. And so I did nothing. Well, I stood at the threshold, but I did not walk through for what seemed like an eternity. I won't say that I actually did nothing in retrospect. I did a lot, actually. I read many books that opened my mind to new concepts. I continued in therapy to heal my wounds. I immersed myself in church activities, and it was a period of introspection, exploration, and amazing personal growth. And as I sat there, personal growth, and after several months of this, I suffered with a bout of insomnia one night. And I sat on the side of my bed, middle of the night, just with my reading lamp on. And out of the corner of my eye, I caught something in the corner of my darkened room. It was a canvas tote bag from the previous GA, or General Assembly, that had a rainbow with words on it. It said, "Now is the time." And just like that, it hit me. Now was the time. Now was the time for me to submit my application. Now was the time for me to finally cross that threshold and let go of the trapeze bar that I had been clinging onto for dear life. Now was the time to take a breath, to jump, and to finally live into who I was meant to be, even though I had no idea how I was going to do it. I submitted my application the next day, and the rest, as they say, is history. Poet and colleague David Breeden admonishes us, you can't live there long in the liminal, that old word threshold, that place for stamping, stomping, and being neither there nor here. And that was true in my case. UU Minister Reverend Lee Barker of the Meadville Lombard Theological School says that the call to ministry is like throwing up. You can only put it off for so long. I could only stay in that liminal space for a period of time before it came clear that I could no longer stay there. Before that tension of being neither in nor out, neither here nor there became unbearable. Something had to change. As humans, we must change. We must embrace transformation, even if it's scary and unknown. Change brings life, stagnation brings death. So I think this fellowship is now in this liminal space. And that's not necessarily a bad thing. After past several years of upheaval, of social isolation, of grief and fear and anxiety, in stark contrast to the new hope and excitement and joy and passion that we've recently been experiencing, it's no wonder that we find ourselves in this liminal space of in between. And it's okay to rest here for a while, to collect our thoughts, reflect on our yesterdays, make plans for our tomorrows, and then when it is time to be able to let go of that trapeze bar and fly into our future, not unlike our friend Humpty Dumpty. This liminal time is a gift of potential, not to be hurried through, but not to be lingered over either. And while we're in this place, we need to reflect on three questions. Who were we? Who are we? And who do we wish to become? Part of being able to answer the question of who were we involves being willing to let go of that which no longer serves us. What things from our past must we let go of, and what do we need to honor? What lessons have we learned? Why do we do what we do? And will those things help propel us into a better future? There's a anecdotal story about a New England church whose new minister came, and at the first service he observed that at the beginning of the service everyone sat on the left side of the sanctuary. But halfway through, everyone suddenly stood up and moved over to the right-hand side. After several weeks of this odd behavior, the minister finally asked, why? Well, they said, that's the way we've always done it. That's not you, I don't know what is. But time went on, and the minister paid a visit to an elderly congregant who was able to explain the real reason for this bizarre behavior. Apparently, long ago, before they had central heating, the only source of heat in the sanctuary was just a small wood stove on the left side of the room. And inevitably, when the service began, the wood stove would not yet be hot enough to warm the entire room, so everyone sat as close to it as they could. But about halfway through the service, the stove would get too hot and people would have to move. So even now that they had central heating, this congregational ritual survived. But was it necessary? Did it continue to serve them? Maybe. Maybe not. But it was incredibly important for them to understand why they did what they did so they could make an informed decision. We need to be sure that whatever history we repeat is history that we want to repeat and that will serve us. And that's what I mean about answering the who were we question. But we also need to answer, who are we now? What is our mission? What are our strengths? What are our needs? And ultimately, why are we here? Why does this congregation exist? And finally, who do we wish to become? In this liminal space, we have a precious opportunity to reimagine, to dream, to rediscover who we are as both individuals and the congregation. What will we look like in the future? I can't answer that. Only you can. But I invite you to make these decisions intentionally. In fact, over the next few months, the board will be considering these very questions. And you will be asked to participate in conversations about who we want to be in the future. Your input will be critical in helping us to forge a new way forward together. So now is the time. It's time to decide on our future while we rest here in the in-between a bit. Yes, we're standing on the brink of everything. It's simultaneously terrifying and exhilarating. And as we stand here on this wooden platform high in the sky, awaiting the swinging trapeze bar that will propel us into the future, we breathe in and out. We pause, we pray, and then we fly. May it be so. And I invite you now to join in extinguishing our chalice. The words are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And Reverend Leslie Takahashi leaves us with this lovely benediction. All that we have ever loved and all that we have ever been stands with us on the brink of all that we aspire to create. A deeper peace, a larger love, a more embracing hope, a deeper joy in this life we share. And go in peace. And now we'll enjoy hymn 1064, Blue Boat Home. The words should be on the screen, I believe. If you want to sing, feel free to.
We know this real well, and we'll just relax and sit like we normally do in our postlude and sing, if you like. copied the wrong hymn. Sorry about that. Since it's 11, we will not have time for reflections. Is that okay, Dan? I do have a couple of announcements for Fellowship Life. On Christmas Eve, I dropped off to the Women's Shelter of Elkhart 1 pair of sneakers, 2 scarves, 4 pair of mittens, 7 stocking caps, 28 pairs of socks, and 43 pairs of gloves. These will be small blessings for 85 heads, necks, hands, and feet. Thank you so much for participating in this project. And a reminder that 2 weeks from yesterday, the 11th, the bums are going to get back together and we'll have a gathering just for fellowship and games and stuff at 3 o'clock here at the church. For those of you interested, the guys, and wanting to get back with this group and get her going again. All right? Thank you.